Hello, this is Dennis with A1 Telephone Service and Repair, A1 Electronics. You can reach us on the web at www.a1-telephone.com, and you can also reach us at 618-235-6959. Today I want to show you the initial checkout of a really cool Stromberg Carlson wooden wall crank telephone. This is Tim's equipment from Indiana, and we have another wooden wall telephone that we're going to be setting up for Tim, and a bell box. And he's got a pretty cool idea here. He wants these set up as an intercom system. So we need to go through all the parts. This telephone came in all apart, and we need to do some wiring on this unit. We need to go through the magneto here and make sure that that's working properly. We have a receiver capsule, and we need to go through that. That's original. We want to try to see if that receiver capsule is going to work in the system. Now we know that the transmitter is not going to work, so we do design and build a electronic amplified transmitter here at the shop, and we're going to be installing that so he has the clarity he needs when he talks on these telephones. And that's going to be installed because the original transmitter is not usable. It's no good. The graphite has leaked from the transmitter, and you'd have to replace it anyway. So we want to put everything back together on the telephone, and then we need to start making all of our repairs and conversion that we need to set this up for an intercom system. And so we also want to give you some still pictures of the inside of this telephone. It's a very cool telephone, very good condition, but there's going to be a lot of work with it. I don't believe there's much of the original wiring on the inside left, so we need to wire the telephone the way we want it wired. We need to install a modular port so that Tim can simply bring a line in, any length, any color, and plug it right in. That will be his battery line. That's how he will get his talk and receive power. Now, there will be another pair of wire that he will use for the magnetos to go back and forth to each telephone, and so when you crank the crank and ring the bells, it'll ring both sets of bells and travel that other pair. So we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back now, and we are in the middle of the process of troubleshooting the magneto and the solenoids for the bells. We have to go in and make sure everything is going to work, or if it needs to be repaired. And what we found is this magneto is turning, but it is not producing any voltage. And so what we need to do now is we have to go into the magneto, and we're going to have to figure out what's going on. It could be coming from some of the leaf connections, or coil on our drum could be bad. We need to go in and find out what's going on. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start that and find out why it's not producing any voltage, but it is turning. So we'll go ahead and take a short break, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back now, and we're going to show a little bit about what we found. On the coil for the drum that spins and creates our voltage, we found where there had been an indentation in the coil right here by part of the drum. And probably what has happened is, if you didn't have any experience in this, you probably wouldn't have found it, because it was a pretty small dent, although we had to dig the wires out of the edge here by the drum. And what we have found and repaired is we went ahead and used some trace wire, and we repaired the coil, because what had happened is it was broken, and that's the reason why we didn't have any voltage. And so what we need to do now, since that's been repaired, we have to stabilize that repair so that when the drum is turning, it does not come outside of where it's supposed to be away from the coil and get caught on the, the drum get caught here on the edges, and so where it rides, and cut it off. But basically what happened is probably something had fallen down into this drum, and when it got turned, it poked into the coil and broke a wire that we actually had to dig out of the coil. And so, there wasn't much damage there, but there was enough damage for someone who has experience enough with these type of issues that we were able to find it. So it wasn't all that noticeable, but you could tell it was just damaged enough to where we wanted to go in and check that area, and we did find it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and stabilize this repair here and make sure that that's held in so that it doesn't fly out and get cut off when the drum's spinning, like we explained earlier. And then we're going to come back and we're going to do our test with our voltages. So we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back now, and I wanted to show you a little bit about what's going on. The magneto has been finished up in its repair, and so basically this is how it would have been from the factory if they would have repaired it. They would lay down a coat of clear, a piece of tape, and another piece of, or a layer of clear. And so now that is dried. And you can go ahead and turn the unit, and our wire will not come up and hit our drum any longer. If you can see the analyzer, you can see the volt ohm meter, you can see that it's putting out our voltage now. Now what we want to do is we want to move our lines over to the telephone. We'll clip on. Now the bells sound a little dull because one of them has a crack in it. The other one probably does too, but that's kind of why they have a dull sound to them. But they do basically still have the indication that you are trying to be contacted, like in a intercom system. I'm not sure Tim wants to replace them. If he does, we'll go from there. But right now we know that the magneto has been repaired, and what we want to do is we want to reinstall that magneto into the telephone now. So we'll take a short break and we'll come back and get some more video as soon as we move forward in our repair and conversion of this telephone. So we'll be right back. Okay, we're back now, and we're going to show a little bit about what's going on. We had to remove the shelf from the telephone because this magneto is not the magneto that this telephone came with, and the holes did not line up. So we had to match up everything, drill a couple of new holes. Now we want to reinstall our shelf, and we located 2 bolts that fit our magneto here, because when this unit came in, the whole telephone was apart, and so there was some bolts with it, but just some minor screws and things like that. So we had to locate bolts to fit the magneto. So now that our magneto's repaired and our shelf has its holes drilled in it and everything's lined up, we can reinstall the magneto and move forward with some other issues. Now we went ahead and started making our transmitters, our amplified transmitters that will go in our transmitter neck here and take the place of the original transmitter. Now these will have a higher quality transmit than anything that you would get nowadays for a transmitter that would have any kind of carbon granule crystals in there. So now we want to go ahead and finish up our magneto, and we'll start moving forward. We'll get more video as we move ahead in the repair and conversion of this telephone. So we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back now, and we're going to show a little bit about what's going on. We're in the middle of the process of repairing the original receiver capsule. And so what we have here is we've installed our new cloth cord, and we did not have our connection that ran back to that cloth cord. It was broken. The coil wires are very small, and they're the size of a hair basically, and that was broken, and that's the size coil wire that they run back to the connection. So we've had to add that wire with trace wire, and so that connection has been completed. We also had to repair the coil. Both coils are wound and one end gets soldered together, and that was also broken. So that solder trace has been repaired also. So now what we want to do is we want to coat both of our repairs and so that they do not short out. And that's where we're at right now. But we can at least check the coil. And I know you can't see the analyzer, but you may hear it click. You'll hear the analyzer engage. Every time you hear that click, that's an indication that our coils are being fed with voltage. And so we know that the repair is good. What we have to do now is coat both of the repairs and make our final connection back at the receiver capsule where it connects to the cloth cord. So we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back now, and we are finished up with a repair and conversion of this wooden wall crank telephone that's going to be used in an intercom situation. And so we want to run through some of the connections that Tim is going to have to make to connect the two telephones together. Another issue that we took care of was the bells that came in with this telephone right above the tape here are both cracked. So they didn't sound good and they were replaced. What we want to do is start out with the connections at the top where the lightning arrestor is. This connection and this connection, the one on the left and the right, are going to be connected to the other telephone for the intercom system for the magnetos and bells. So basically what would happen is when you crank this telephone, the two connections that run over to the other telephone, and we're going to show him when we finish that unit up where he needs to make his connections. But anytime you crank this telephone, our voltage for ringing the bells are coming out of the left and right connections at the lightning arrestor. We want to go ahead and ring this unit, so we want to go ahead and crank and ring it. And then voltage would be also supplied here, and that would be connected to the other unit as we talked about earlier. We also want to give you some dial tone. Now this is the original receiver. Earlier we showed that we repaired this receiver. There is a crack in this receiver where a piece of material has been cracked out of the receiver capsule, and Tim says he's going to go ahead and either leave it that way or repair that unit. We also installed our cloth cord. We installed our transmitter, our amplified transmitter that we build here in the shop. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give you some dial tone. I'm going to click the hook switch to take the dial tone away. And I'm going to go ahead and transmit. Every time you see that red light on the analyzer light up, and I'm pretty far away from this telephone, you can see that that's an indication of 100% modulation on transmit. And so we know, I'm even going to tap on it, we know that this telephone has transmit, receive, it's ringing. We also want to open up the unit and show you the inside because there's another connection that needs to be made for his battery so that they have talk power. And we'll go ahead and open the unit. Okay, so what we've got here is we've got a couple of connections at the very top left-hand corner on the inside of your cabinet. And they are the two stab connections is where Tim is going to hook his battery lines to, like tip and ring, only they're going to be a battery fed situation so that the two telephones have talk power, and that's where those connections will be made. We're also going to mark them so Tim knows where to put his connections. We had to repair the magneto as we showed earlier. We went ahead and added wiring for our transmitter because there was no wiring for the transmitter. We went through the hook switch, wired everything the way we needed it wired, and then we wired in our magneto. So everything's been taken care of, and this unit can be used as a intercom telephone at this point, and we're going to be starting on another wooden wall crank telephone that he's going to use at the other end. He's got a very cool idea here with using two wooden wall crank telephones as an intercom system, and I'm sure once he gets it all installed and is able to use it, it's going to be pretty cool. This is Dennis with A1 Telephone Service and Repair, A1 Electronics. You can reach us on the web at www.a1-telephone.com, and you can also reach us at 618-235-6959. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.